I've gotten used to the fact that I'm always more beautiful and more popular than any of my friends, no matter how attractive they are. But recently, I found myself in a situation in which I could not compete. I'll tell you everything. My name is Mary. I'm 18, and recently my family and I moved. New city, new friends. Within a week, I was on the cheerleading squad, and a whole article about me was to be published in the school newspaper. A few days later, I was invited on a date by the most popular guy at school. Mark was famous throughout our small town for showing promise in football as a quarterback. He was rich, handsome, and he wasn't yet taken by anyone. Every girl wanted to go out with him, but he chose me. That day, my new friends and I were about to head home after the game. I had caught Mark looking at me several times, and then he approached me. Addressing only me, he said that he was surprised that there was someone in the school who was more popular than him, and we still hadn't met. He showed me a school newspaper with my photo on the front page. After a couple of jokes and idle chit-chat, we agreed to meet at a restaurant the next day. It seemed that nothing would spoil my mood until I read that article about me. They just couldn't help but talk about Jake. His name was mentioned more often than mine, but I hadn't even told anyone about him. Jake is my older brother. About a year ago, he began playing in the NFL. His career had taken off. In our family, he has always been number one. Such a perfect, caring son. Always calls mom and dad, always comes home on holidays, and now he has become a real object of pride and adoration. And not just for my parents. So my date with Mark was set for the next day, and I fell asleep in sweet anticipation. Everything went great. Mark was very courteous and polite. We kissed a lot, and he was such a magnificent kisser. I have a rule. On the first date, I don't allow anything but kisses, and Mark did not demand more. He was in no hurry, and I was completely fine with that. We saw each other every other day and even managed to meet each other's parents. First, he introduced me to his family, and then I did the same. I also knew how much Mark wanted to meet my brother. A meeting between these two hardcore football players was planned. One of them, so far, only dreamed of glory, and the other's childhood dream had already come true and was shining brightly. At dinner, Mark impressed everyone. I was even looked at differently by the family when next to him. After all, he was my perfect guy. With my brother, he hit it off right away. They even went off a couple of times on their own manly conversations that evening. The very next day, Jake invited me and my boyfriend to his game, and then suggested we spend the night in his penthouse. After that, they began corresponding on their own and even met up a couple of times without me. They had a lot in common. Apparently, my brother was happy to support my boyfriend's dream of making it big in football. Mark and I had been together for about 3 months when he decided to throw a big party at his place. Jake was invited and was supposed to be the main attraction. Mark had high expectations that evening, as did I. After all, so much time had passed and we had never gone beyond just kissing. Therefore, for the party, I carefully selected not only my dress, but also my underwear. The evening was in full swing when my brother came and Mark literally immediately took him aside. An hour and a half later, my friend Debbie realized that she had not seen them for a long time and suggested that a small group of us go searching for them. I was in front. Approaching Mark's room, I involuntarily hastened my step and pulled away from the others. When I opened the door, I saw my boyfriend and my brother kissing. The whole school was there that night, and the most malicious gossipers and upstarts came in right behind me. I could not allow them to see this. What a laughing stock I would be then! I went into the room and said, "There you are," and stood between them at the same moment when everyone else came in. Then I played my part to the end and did not show my emotions. All week, I pretended to be sick so I wouldn't have to go to school. After all, I didn't know how to explain to my friends the sudden breakup with Mark and my brother's quirks. Mark had dated me only to get close to my brother. Jake came over on the weekend, and not alone. He and Mark came as a couple. My parents' surprise lasted no more than 5 minutes, and then they pretended that everything was as it should be, even though, until recently, I had been calling him my boyfriend. I don't know how to be now. How can I continue to go to school? After all, soon everyone will find out that my boyfriend dated me only because of my famous brother. And how can I tolerate their visits to our house together? After all, I have a year left of school and I live with my parents. What should I do?
Hi, I'm Josie, and I'm 22 years old. All my life, I dreamed of having some kind of animal, and recently, my dream came true, although not at all as I thought it would. My mother loves order very much. The house is always spotless, food strictly on schedule, and, of course, no parties or noisy games. There was not even mention of animals. To my requests for a kitten or puppy, Mom always answered that when I grow up and could take care of it myself, I could get one. At 12 years old, I decided to prove that I can take care of a pet. For 2 months, I maintained perfect cleanliness in my room, mowed the lawn, and pulled all my grades up to 4s and 5s. Mom praised me, but I still wasn't allowed to have a pet. At that time, I did not argue, but after a few years, I began to tell my mother no. A year ago, I was walking in the park. I had a favorite place, quiet and secluded, where I would listen to birds, paint, or read. I came, spread a blanket on the grass, and pulled out a book. Before I had time to delve into the novel, I heard a faint, sad meow. Had someone really come to this remote corner of the park with a kitten? Strange. I tried to keep reading, but the meowing constantly distracted me, and I decided to see what was the matter. I followed the sound and found a basket tightly tied with a cloth. This is where the meows were coming from. Hello? Who's there? Anyone? Whose kittens are these? No one responded, so I decided to act. I untied the fabric and looked into the basket. There were 7 wonderful kittens inside, but they were so thin, so miserable. Maybe someone lost the basket? Perhaps someone walked away for a minute and then forgot where they left the kittens. I took the basket and walked through the park in search of the owner, but I did not find anyone. Surely, no one abandoned these adorable kittens, let alone in a tightly tied basket. If I had not found the basket, the kittens would have died of hunger and thirst. How horrible! I realized that I couldn't leave these furry babies. I saved their lives once. How could I leave them now? But I also could not take kittens to my house. To help the little creatures, I put a big box in the yard behind the house, insulated it, and covered it with rainproof polyethylene. It turned out to be a great house for kittens. The kittens soon got used to their new home. I fed them, played with them, and cleaned up after them. I was happy. Finally, my dream came true. But the happiness did not last long. Soon, the kittens grew up and began to get out of the box for walks. My mother finally noticed one of the kittens and found the box. A huge controversy ensued. Mom screamed that I had deceived her, dragged a bunch of vile, dirty cats into our yard, and now we had fleas, worms, and cat droppings everywhere. That was not true. I had taken the kittens to the veterinarian and was putting all their litter in bags and throwing it in the trash. But my mother did not listen to me. She only blamed and scolded, and then said that she would not tolerate such a source of filth in the yard. I had to obey. I put the kittens in a box and took them to the main street of the city. I stood there for hours and looked for the kindest faces in the crowd. I offered these people to take my kittens. A kind old woman took a red kitten, a young couple, a black one. In 3 days, I was able to give out all the kittens, except for the 2 most ordinary looking. They sat in the box, confused and scared, and I felt so sorry for them. But Mom said that if I don't get rid of the kittens, she would hand them over to the shelter. I made up my mind. Ignoring my mother's protests, I took 2 kitties to my room. All night I packed, read advertisements, and called real estate agents, and in the morning I called a taxi and left for my new apartment. Now I live separately, and my cats are with me. They are very kind, affectionate, and intelligent animals, and I love them with all my heart. And you know, I am grateful to these kittens. They helped me grow up. Now I have learned to make decisions on my own and take responsibility. I think this was a very important step to take, and I successfully did it. Have you ever made a spontaneous decision? Tell me in the comments about the craziest thing you've done.